Hello, and welcome to another episode of MBAs Teach Econ. Today, we will discuss externalities. Let's start off with the basic market for cigarettes. Within this market, we have our supply and demand curves that will determine the equilibrium point between buyers and sellers based on the marginal benefit each cigarette provides to buyers and the marginal cost the producers face in making an additional unit. As most of you know, cigarette smoke has been shown to cause a variety of different health complications. In our supply and demand model, though, the smoker takes these costs to his personal health into consideration and would presumably lower his marginal benefit from what it would be, but not enough to prevent him from smoking. Unfortunately, the smoker is not the only person his smoking will affect. Secondhand smoke has been shown to be nearly as dangerous to those around the smoker. These unlucky members of society are feeling the burden of a negative externality. The bystanders are not participants in the purchase decision, but when the smoker consumes the good, he creates a spillover cost that is detrimental to their health. Because they do not affect the actual smoker, these costs do not enter into his marginal benefit calculus and does not influence the demand for cigarettes. But if society examined the benefit to the entire society, including the bystander, the marginal social benefit would lie to the left of the demand curve, as this additional cost of secondhand smoke would be combined with the marginal benefit to the smoker to determine the marginal benefit for society of consuming the next cigarette. With this new curve, we can see that the societal optimal equilibrium quantity is actually lower than the market equilibrium quantity. With a negative externality, the market will produce too much, and in a situation with a positive externality, the market will produce too little. In this case, we shift the MSB curve because the externality is created when the buyer consumes the good. Externalities are also created in production. These externalities would shift the marginal social cost curve, which mirrors the supply curve. An example of a positive externality of production would be the florist who maintains a garden for his business that brightens the neighborhood with his flowers. This benefit his neighbors receive from the production of flowers actually lowers the total marginal cost to society. Positive externalities shift the MSB, or the marginal social benefit curve, or the marginal social cost curve, outward, while negative externalities shift the marginal social benefit curve, or the marginal social cost curve, inward. Now, looking at these two models, we can see that in our negative externality example, by consuming at a quantity above the optimal quantity, the market is actually creating a dead weight loss. For each unit consumed beyond the optimal quantity, the marginal cost of production is greater than the marginal benefit to society. This creates a loss of surplus to society. Meanwhile, in our flowers example, the market is creating deadweight loss as well, because it has not reached the maximum surplus for society. At the market equilibrium, the marginal cost to society of production is still well below the marginal benefit of the consumers. Therefore, we could continue to increase the benefit to society if the seller continued production. In both of these cases, the buyer or seller functioning in the market does not make the optimal choice for society. because he is not burdened by the additional cost of a negative externality, nor does he enjoy the additional benefits of a positive externality. So what must a society do to achieve the optimal quantity? They must allow or force the market actor to participate in the spillover costs and benefits created. We call this internalizing the externality. There are many ways this can occur. The first is through private negotiation, which shifts costs or benefits between parties. The second is through government intervention. Typically, governments will tax negative externalities to ultimately reduce the market equilibrium quantity and subsidize positive externalities to increase the market equilibrium quantities. In our cigarette example, a tax reduces the marginal benefit of the consumer, shifting the demand curve closer to the MSB, which reduces the market equilibrium quantity closer to the optimal quantity. In the flour market, a subsidy reduces the marginal cost of the producer, shifting the supply curve to the right. This increases the market equilibrium quantity closer to the optimal quantity. In this manner, cigarette smokers have internalized the spillover costs, and flour producers have internalized the spillover benefit. The last way the government can impact externalities is through command and control policies. Through this manner, they will enact quotas or regulations to limit or increase the quantity produced or consumed. This concludes this lesson on externalities with MBAs Teach Econ. We hope to see you soon.